Thomas Liebernight with Ahead CRM. I'm here with Melissa Gordon, Vice President of Tidal Basin, Executive Vice President of Tidal Basin. Sorry for that one. We are here at the Zoho Day 2024 in McAllen, Texas. And what we want to talk about is the Tidal Basin road with success of Zoho, with Zoho. Well, thanks for being with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So again, Melissa Gordon, Executive Vice President with Tidal Basin. Tidal Basin is a government contractor. We started the company in the emergency management disaster response space and have since expanded our services throughout the government space, including technology services, financial services, and contact centers.
So now you told me that you are running a couple of Zoho applications already. And you also told me that you ran them, well, before you started the Tidal Basin. What did you have in place already when you started?
Okay, so in 2019, I started with Tidal Basin as our Chief Information and Strategy Officer. So really combining corporate strategy with a CIO role. At that time, we were using Zoho CRM, primarily for account management and lead and proposal management. Since then, or when I started, I was tasked with implementing a project management tool. The CEO at the time was leaning towards Zoho Project in order to have a system that we could tie together. And so I went out and did a cost-benefit analysis, looked at different features, looked at different systems, and we ended up selecting Zoho because the cost of the system and the value and the tools that we needed really did win out against the alternative options.
How long did the implementation take?
The implementation was actually pretty simple. Because we knew we were going down the Zoho path, we actually looked at Zoho One also to incorporate, to evaluate whether or not those products kind of long-term focus would help us. So because we knew that our goal was ultimately to get to Zoho One, but we were doing it through organic adoption, we hired an internal team member to run our configuration and implementation. The actual setup itself and turning on up the product was pretty simple. Getting our account set up, that was painless. And then she went through the process really of training our internal users on how to use the system. Because we went through more of an organic adoption approach, we actually had more corporate users running corporate processes adopt before we had actual project users adopting the use of the system. I would say the project user adoption has really escalated in probably 2022, 2023. And I think it's a result of some of the other tools that people were exposed to that helped them start asking for more and more and more tools.
Well, that's a good news for Zoho. So we're getting hooked basically and wanting to use more. What has been the original driver for going for a project management tool, apart from the obvious one that as a project contractor, you do projects?
Yeah, so I think our original driver was twofold. One, we had employees who were asking for tools to run their projects. And so that was obviously an easy driver. People want something, you want to provide it. It helps with employee engagement and retention. Two, we really knew we were focused on growth for the organization, and so we wanted to help minimize our risks as the project sizes and team sizes grew. Obviously, the larger projects you're working on, more people involved, the risk is greater, both in terms of just exposure for the company and then also in terms of like the volume of people you're trying to manage and keep together.
In the course of using the system, how many, what results did you see? What changes did you see in terms of risks maturing, people, well, you mentioned people retention, or reduction of effort in project management, being on time with projects, keeping them on track, on budget, on time, on quality? So did you see any changes there, or what changes did you see there?
I would say because we used the organic approach and we didn't enforce use of project management on the operational project level, the adoption there was slower. I think since people have started adopting it, there's just better visibility and tracking, and we are seeing that I would say in terms of time management for our PMs, they're spending less time trying to aggregate information. When they're having their meetings, they're easily able to go in and kind of follow up on the things that, should have been done between the last meeting and this one. And then the people who are doing those tasks can also be a collaborator, and they're providing those updates. So you can also eliminate unnecessary meetings if both parties know that the work has been done and there's no need for a follow-up. There's also the mechanism of being able to tag things and tag people if you have questions. That kind of helps facilitate communication about a specific task within a project that you don't necessarily have if, you're managing via email, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah, or click. In how far did the tool force or enable you to change your project methodologies? Did you change your project methodologies, or have you been able to fully adopt the tool to yours?
So I would say what we have done is we have actually implemented the Tidal Basin way of doing project management. So taking project management principles that are applicable across a variety of projects and tailoring them to the work we do, and then tailoring them to the size and scope of the project. So we'll do very small projects, we'll do very large projects, and then being able to build templates to support those projects so that if I'm doing a very small project, it kind of helps reduce what I have to enter versus having this long form that I'm going through trying to figure out what's necessary. So it really allows with the scalability of the project size across the organization in terms of Zoho projects.
Coming back a little to the implementation portion of projects, I mean, you said it was a fairly small and effortless implementation phase. Has there been anything that occurred in the course of implementing projects that was kind of out of the ordinary, that baffled you, or that needed a mitigation of a risk?
I would not say in the course of implementing projects. I think things that have occurred in the course of our business that have helped with the adoption of additional Zoho products are requirements that are in public programs that require a mechanism for the general public to be able to submit information. So like, for example, we run a lot of grant programs, and those grant programs require a mechanism for the general public to notify the grantee if there is the potential for fraud, waste, and abuse. And so we were able to take Zoho Forms and Zoho Desk, build out a reporting form for fraud, waste, and abuse, tie it to a help desk that we were then able to manage the monitoring and review of those reports that were coming in, and then also aggregate and report that back to the client as part of one of our deliverables.
Did you do that as part of the implementation of the Zoho projects, or has that come after?
That was been separate and distinct.
Okay. What are you using of? What other Zoho products are you using? So I heard desks, I heard forms, survey, CRM, projects. What else are you using?
So we started with CRM, obviously. We went to Zoho projects. We then decided to transition our corporate help desk for our IT over to Zoho as well, again, as part of a consolidation effort. We then expanded our use of Zoho Desk to create help desks for all of our corporate departments to help with onboarding, to ensure that onboarding that is happening as part of the organization is handled and closed out at every department, because the requests sometimes were going in and we were using consolidated emails, and there was a lot of confusion as the organization grew, and it wasn't just one person doing the task anymore to know, like, has this been done yet? And by using the ticketing system, you can close out the task. You don't have to actually go to like another system to confirm, like, have I ordered business cards? Have I done this profile yet? It's kind of a one-stop shop for being able to check and make sure those tasks are done. So we have those for every corporate department now. They're also being used for, like, if people have an issue, like if they have a question about benefits. Anywhere where maybe historically companies would use a consolidated inbox, we're pushing into a help desk environment just for tracking and also to measure response time. So the reason we took our corporate help desk into Zoho Desk is to provide more visibility and reporting up to the executive team, because one of the things that we were explaining to our IT departments is you are only as good as your customer remembers. And so, like, for example, the experience of people feeling like they're not getting a response actually frames their perception of you regardless of all the other wonderful things you're doing from a technology perspective. And so by implementing the help desk and implementing SLAs that were then communicated across the organization, when people would come to me or somebody on my team, you know, I'd be able to ask like, well, how long has it been? And like, is this business critical? Is this just a nice to have? And it kind of helps when, as you're growing and the volume of employees are growing that are submitting to that, it helps the team prioritize their workload, and it also helps with just messaging back. And I would say I virtually get zero complaints or I don't hear anything anymore about the help desk in terms of a negative light. We did have the user experience option turned on for a while, and that I think we had pros and cons with. We actually ended up disabling it because the feedback where people felt like it wasn't positive was going back and creating some tension between the IT team and the individual user. So we actually ended up turning off that feature. But it was also like what has been helpful in terms of the help desk is because we've integrated the form, our help desk agents are going in and classifying our issues, so then we can analyze those issues and implement changes across the organization to drive down the number of tickets that are coming in. So like, for example, if you have a large number of tickets coming in about a specific product or about a specific example, you can go in and say, okay, is this something we really need to invest in this year to kind of drive down, improve our employee user experience, and just really reduce the burden on the help desk? Like, is there additional training we need to do for our staff? Things like that. And then to answer your question, so we have CRM, desk, forms, project. We are also using Zoho Creator for a purchasing system. We are using Zoho Campaigns, and we have used the microsites, and we have also used the chatbot, but both in support of client projects.
Which leads me actually to two follow-ups, just deciding which one go first. So there are basically three key stakeholder groups. One is management, the typical employee, basically the user groups, and the customers. Who or which of these groups, on average, would you say is most satisfied with Tidal Basin's use of Zoho products? With the outcomes, hard one, I know.
I have to pick.
All three.
We have a motto that our CEO references all the time. That is, if you take care of your people and you take care of your customers, everything else will take care of itself. And I think that providing a mechanism for people to be more efficient, because everybody wants to come to work and do a good job. Nobody wants to do mundane tasks that don't add value. And so if you can provide a mechanism to do that, it enables our employees to then take better care of our customers. And ultimately, that is our focus. So I would say the customers are probably the ultimate beneficiaries of it. But I think it's because by taking care of our employees, they are better able to pass that along and take care of our customers, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm actually thinking in similar lines. Obviously, you're also quite committed to Zoho products or Zoho solutions meanwhile. So what would be the next step for Tidal Basin with Zoho?
So when we started down this path, I mentioned that we were looking at Zoho One, and kind of our focus was we were going to purchase, because we were doing the organic adoption, and we also, if we went straight to Zoho One out of the box, we'd be spending money on resources that we weren't using. And in order to have enough internal resources to train and garner adoption, it didn't make sense to go that path from the beginning. We have gotten to the point, because of the different tools we're using and the adoption rate we're seeing, it is making more sense to transition to Zoho One. So we spent most of last year working through getting all of the pieces and parts cleaned up within the system to make the transition to Zoho One simpler. And then now this year, our goal is to transition the organization over to Zoho One, which will then open up
50 odd applications, yeah.
Well, but it opens up the applications, and then employees feel like they're getting something that is already something they're paying for. And so I also think this year we are probably going to go through more like enforcement of Zoho projects, now that we've started to see adoption, we've started to see kind of the organic adoption. We've rolled out kind of, our manuals and plans of how we want things done, really starting to enforce usage of that and compliance. And I think once we start doing those compliance reviews and enforcing that adoption, people will start to see the value and the time it is saving them, because it's a lot easier. If I'm doing a compliance review and I can go into a system, I don't have to sit down and meet with you. You don't have to email me anything. You don't have to go look for it. I can go through and it's like, okay, this report shows me that like 80% of these things are done. I don't need to go meet with 10 PMs to know, because it's all right here at my fingertips. And I think it will help people become better project managers. Like, I think tools are there really to help you do your job better, not to be a check the box and like get things done. So that's kind of where we're going.
Yeah. Final one from my side. So the partnership with a software vendor, I sometimes say it's like a marriage. Has good times and hard times, harder times. Is there one thing or few things that you could think of that you ever wanted to get from Zoho but never could get?
So I would say that if there is an area Zoho could improve upon, it would be their documentation of the features. I think they're rolling out features so quickly that their documentation is not staying up to date. I will say, however, that their help desk is very helpful in helping navigate through that. So as we've seen our growth and adoption, we still only have one real administrator of the system. And that has been able to support that growth and adoption, the user base, things like that. So I think that could be improved upon. I think one of the things that we are really looking at is, because we see Zoho as an opportunity to be able to provide something to our clients. I'm really looking at the partner program, which I'm actually meeting while I'm here at Zoho Day to talk through some of what I think could be improved upon with that, to make it a little easier for people to become partners. So those are probably like where I could see two improvements, for lack of a better word. In terms of the technology, I think some of it is, like, there are probably parts and pieces that different teams within our organization are like, I wish it had this. And for those things, I think for us, we have a mechanism through our account rep to communicate that back up. Now, how Zoho prioritizes that, I assume, is coming from like their broad customer base. But we regularly are sending information back up about, hey, it'd be nice if it did this. And we've actually seen a lot of those improvements come out throughout our journey. Means they are fairly responsive and receptive, not respectful. Well, and even if you go back to the documentation, like, it's a trade-off, right? Like, if those features aren't being rolled out, then you're not getting additional features. And so it's like, and if there is a mechanism to resolve it when you want to use one of those new features, it kind of all plays out. So. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. This was fun and insightful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, well, great.